Welcome to Wrestling is Real.
To be the man, you gotta beat the man, and I'm saying, woo, right here.
Here's the future of wrestling. You can call this the new world order of wrestling, brother.
Day in and day out, I am the best on this microphone, in that ring, even in commentary.
And whether you like it or you don't like it, learn, by God, to love it, because it's the best thing going today.
Celebrating 8 years of podcast excellence, the King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us. A very busy week in pro wrestling here on the Wrestling is Real podcast, and when we get things started tonight, we're going to have to just get things started with what's going on tonight on Dynamite when it came to Malachi Black debuting on the show. Andre Idolo having his first match against Matt Sydal in winning fashion. An action-packed Dynamite, which we'll go ahead and get into a little bit later on, because there's a lot of things that are happening with that. But the overall thing, we could also talk about the issues with WWE when it comes to Zelina Vega making a return back to the program, back to SmackDown. And Jimmy Uso getting a DUI arrest, his fourth. And there's a lot more. There was just so much they can go and get into, but it all encompasses tonight a landmark date, an anniversary in professional wrestling. To me, one of the very most important anniversaries in the modern era of professional wrestling. June 7th, 1996. Almost to the hour that this happened. At WCW's Bash at the Beach, Hulk Hogan jumps in to a match that was including, what was it, Sting and Lex Luger and Randy Savage. There were supposed to be three guys in the match with the Outsiders, and they never had a third person come out in the match. But in the match, Randy Savage was taken out. Lex Luger was taken out, right? Yes. And then Sting and Savage were left to go after the Outsiders in this, what was originally a 3-on-2 match, because we didn't know who the third man was. That was announced by Hall and Nash. They were going to have a third man join them, which we eventually be the leader of what would be known as the New World Order. I remember watching that pay-per-view, having him on my black box, my Scientific Atlanta black box, watching the pay-per-view, and what a mark-out moment. What a night after that. And then just letting it sit and stew for several weeks after that. And then just the momentum of what Monday Nitro on WCW on TNT was for several years after that. And the buzz that it created. And what it ultimately did was create the most legitimate competition, opponent, adversary that WWF had ever faced at any given time. Now, of course, we had the territories before that in the mid-'80s, from World Class to Mid-South to NWA and so on. But we're kind of back into that territory days again with other companies that are now back up with now an emerging AEW. And when you look at what they did tonight and the last couple of weeks, they're back on the road first, officially. They have landed several significant debuts of free agents that came from WWE in terms of releases. Okay, these are not people that got out of their contract and moved over. These were let go. But the significance of the talent that he brought in, sure, there might have been some older stars that everybody kind of complained about. If you're one of those diehard WWE fans, oh, look, Mark Henry's coming in, Christian Cage, or Mark Henry or The Big Show, right. But then you counteract, and you got to say to yourself, Andre Idolo and Malachi Black which was Tommy End, which was Aleister Black, entering into the fray and saying to yourself, man, something about those debuts stood out. Those are mark-out moments. Andrade making it into AEW, you marked out pretty good. But then the way they did Malachi Black, even better. And I was wondering what that first blackout was all about, because it was during the Cody QT Marshall strap match. And then seeing it again when Arn comes out for a quick interview. And just saying to yourselves, we don't know what they're going to be able to do if the characters they're allowed to create now outside of the umbrella that is the stranglehold that is WWE, and be able to do what they want to do is important. And the creative freedom is going to help both of these wrestlers going forward. These are the kind of things, these are the kind of acquisitions that AEW is doing right now. They're going to have to do something with their roster when it comes to if it's too bloated and too big, depending on how big their contracts are and how their contracts are structured. If they're more just independently per booking as opposed to exclusive contracts where they're being put down to salaries. Because I'm not sure if anybody knows what the AEW deal is on how they're signing people up, except for a number of people that are set to contracts and those that have founded the company, basically, from the beginning. But 25 years ago, it was one gimmick that ultimately could have destroyed WWF, the World Wrestling Federation, as a company that was private. Now, that's not going to happen here. The WWE is basically invincible. They're never going to lose their spot when it comes to profitability, when it comes to their status as one of the biggest promotions in professional wrestling, or being synonymous with professional wrestling in general, or sports entertainment. But what AEW can do is put themselves on the map, much like what WCW did, with the same kind of criticism. Okay, the same kind of criticism that a Ted Turner gets, a Tony Khan's getting right now. Another billionaire in the mix. And are they taking other stars from other... Absolutely. You could kind of put the pieces together. You could say that Chris Jericho, in essence, was what WCW was, what Hulk Hogan was at WCW. The signing of Chris Jericho to AEW initially is like what Hulk Hogan's signing was. Not to the impact, not to the magnitude, but you understand where I'm coming from. And John Moxley coming in is like getting Randy Savage to come in shortly after. These kind of things here make up everything. And it's these kind of deals that make a difference for AEW to recreate the kind of momentum, the kind of buzz that WCW got with Monday Nitro. Ultimately, it's been 25 years since the 1996 WCW Bash at the Beach, which changed the face of wrestling forever. So what I wrote in my description tonight. Kind of comments to work off of as I make my point. And my question is that I'm going to pose to all of you here on the program is, can today's wrestling environment come up with a new challenge to provoke WWE to force them to change? We're going to lay out the argument as to why they need to change. They are making changes. There is no denying that. If you just look at what Nick Khan's been doing behind the scenes as president of the company, he has absolutely been rampant. As chief revenue officer, he has been rampant. He has been aggressive in making deals, and it doesn't stop. So there is somebody right now within the confines of Stamford, Connecticut, that is trying to foster change. What is undeniable now about AEW being the leader in today's wrestling environment to foster change to the WWE is they are setting the trends. They are undoubtedly the trendsetters right now. Signings like making All Elite Andrade El Idolo Malachi Black. They are symbolic at best at this moment. We don't know if these signings are going to foster something great, but it's the symbolism to the fan base, to the diehard fan base that watches wrestling in general. The ones that are in the crosshairs in the IWC that are showing loyalty to one brand or the other. And that's what's going on here. Creating the matches, getting ahead of WWE several weeks ahead of getting back out on the road, of being able to do some of the things because they're not publicly traded, because it's a private company. And a Tony Khan who is able to trend set. He is trying to beat, he's kind of going the Eric Bischoff route of cutting off, heading them off at the pass, heading off the WWE. It's very Wild West. It is different. But the difference is I think he's also a much better negotiator, much better business person when it comes to what he's doing with AEW as opposed to what Eric Bischoff did with WCW. Because we have a mixture, absolutely, of young and old stars. The promo that Dan Lambert actually laid out was a very good explanation and made a whole lot of sense. They are building up new stars. They are building up and working with veteran stars. And they are making something that is very exciting and very interesting. Because look, that Miami crowd was super hot tonight. A great crowd at Night Center. Good 5,000 folks that were in the building. And Miami, they were really into everything. Die-hard fans. Good crowd. A great start to the road tour. For the road trips for AEW going forward. Now, I know some of my fellow podcast brethren is going to be upset. Going to be bitter. They're not going to like some of the things that are being done. And in a normal kind of a recess kind of, teenage kind of bullying kind of feel to it, they have to feel compelled to complain, bitch, whine, and moan about some of the things that AEW is doing. They're going to do that. And meanwhile, the WWE fans are going to crap all over this in the other side. And AEW fans will then also try to defend and crap the other way around. And that doesn't do anything any good anyway. Both sides are both to blame. But regardless, I look at the real aspect of all this here on this program. Because 25 years ago, if we had the momentum that a lot of wrestling was getting in 1996, ECW, an early organization starting to make its way up, was just getting started. WCW finding its footing, was already a challenge for WWF already when it came to Raw versus Nitro and the Monday Night Wars. And all that culminating with a storyline and Hulk Hogan's heel turn, which that's the important part. That's really what created the NWO. Hulk Hogan and that heel turn ultimately solidified the legacy of the New World Order. And everything they did with it when it came to displaying it, the aesthetics, the hardcore attitude, and WWE being made to respond to it, to counter-program, counteract. That provocation created a heyday for many fans that continue to laud it now, 20 years later. I mean, you could just look and check out what people like to talk about the most. If you are a casual wrestling fan, you are going to go back and regale at the Attitude Era, which only happened, number one, because they took a lot of what ECW was doing at the time and incorporated it. After ECW came in and worked on Raw, thanks to Vince McMahon, allowing Paul Heyman and ECW to come in and work Monday Night Raw. Second, they took that idea in order to go ahead and create something to counteract to WCW. which was on its heels. And then this NWO storyline ultimately changed the game. It forced WWF to change a lot of things. They had to change the gimmicks. In this same vein that we have right now with Bruce Pritchard and team now. What's happening right now? We are reliving 27 years ago, almost to the point. The difference is that this is still a different company. It's corporate. It's publicly traded. And they have a pretty smart team. Listen, this, regardless of everything else, regardless of the creative hindrances they have right now, this company, WWE, it's a smart damn company. They got a lot of really smart people on that team. That is a multi-billion-dollar company. Valuated tens of billions of dollars. But that is why it's so frustrating that the weakness of their creative today allows the door to be open for a promotion like AEW to come in. And remember this, that in 2018, when this formation of this promotion came to be, it could have only happened if they were not making the mistakes they had made back then, which they continue to make today. They repeat the same mistakes over and over and over again. And for the, when they went back to the 2010s, up to 2011, 2012, 2013, TNA tried to recreate magic with some of the same things that happened in WCW, bringing back Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff with bad leadership in Dixie Carter, and bringing that back and failing and spending a lot of money as a result. Just another payday for a lot of these guys coming back in again. So it didn't make much of a difference there. TNA just trying to go ahead and just restart things up again, which that's a point where I don't really think about too much. It's the time of TNA or Impact Wrestling now that I really don't think about too much. Like, it's a part of their history. They're going to have to deal with it. And that's the part that people like to complain about. Sure. And the WWE fans, these diehard fans, they absolutely want to treat AEW like TNA in the 2010s. They so badly want to crap on AEW like it was TNA. Because they can look at Christian Cage or Big Show or Mark Henry or Chris Jericho or Masato or whatever. All former WWE guys. Yes. Oh, look, it's the same thing TNA did. But then they use WCW guys too. Same thing. Yeah, take some old free agents. And then you got a couple of younger stars. Oh, AJ Styles and Robert Roode and Samoa Joe. And yeah, got it. You can have those days. You want to go ahead and just live in history? Go right ahead. I want to live for the future on this program. And for all of you that want to listen in, you are here listening because we are forward-thinking individuals. We are forward-thinking wrestling fans. We appreciate, we like our nostalgia. We honor the past of professional wrestling. Going back over a century to all the wrestling we've gotten to today. Now, I don't go ahead and live it over and over and over here. I don't do that on this program. I like forward thinking. I like thinking ahead. But the rare day I go ahead and mark a historical landmark in professional wrestling for the fact that it will tell us once again the tired message. History must learn from history, or else you are doomed to repeat it. And WWE has not learned that lesson. Now, they bought their competition, which resulted from this WCW Bash at the Beach 1996. What WCW became, poor management, poor decision-making, everything. A lot of bad things happening. And a company that was failing as well financially. Ultimately, hurt WCW. Because basically WCW imploded on itself. It destroyed itself from within. But that was also because WWE was able to go ahead and counteract, successfully win the Money Night Award. Good for you. You did it. TNA tried a little bit. They decided to go, let's go for Monday nights. Easily crushed them. No question about that. Fast forward to today. Let's throw NXT as a roadblock to AEW. And ultimately it failed. And that is not a shot against NXT. Because NXT, they made mistakes with that product. Now, it's nothing about the product itself today and what it's been. I can't dispute what NXT has become and what they are. Listen, it's a very formidable promotion. It's an anomaly. It kind of just tells you something that if a big corporate company wanted to be able to go and create a promotion, much like an indie promotion, the best possible indie promotion possible, with all the means and money necessary, they can do that. Okay? For them to go and pick guys from Evolve and PWG and Ring of Honor and former Impact Wrestling stars, hey, have at it. That's what NXT is. Regardless of how well the Great American Bash, which was a good show on Tuesday night, it is incapable. And I'm going to say this. I wrote this down. I want to make sure. I'm going to say it twice because I want to make sure I'm extremely clear in what I'm saying here, so that nobody takes this out of context. NXT, regardless of how well the Great American Bash is incapable. And this is the fault of the company, not the wrestlers. Incapable of developing any talent. And let me add the extra part. Incapable of developing any talent that will make the main roster cut. And that main roster cut is damn near impossible. You can make the main roster cut, but to ultimately stay in the main roster without getting cut, what will be important to see with Andrade and Aleister Black being let go. The early releases so far. I don't know how Aleister Black was able to get out so early from the contract, but he did. Regardless, to be able to go and see this happen, and two releases making an impact so quickly, the impact for those two wrestlers could fade. But if AEW, and the same thing with Miro, by the way, if they are capable of building these stars into something much more formidable, and they become bigger stars than they were in WWE or NXT, it will be a failure upon WWE because they will have let go. We already know they had let go good talent. There's no question there. If you just look at just Miro, Andrade, and Aleister Black, that is great talent that was let go prematurely. And even AEW screwed up with Miro. The best man gimmick, they dropped it because now he's not. Miro's TNT champion. He's a strong damn TNT champion. And just like any other wrestling promotion, they're not going to always get it right. Hey, Impact Wrestling's not always getting it right. Look, they have not been capable of doing much with Heath Slater or Matt Cardona or Kurt Hawkins. Neither of them have really done that well at all. Or Brian Myers. Yeah, okay. But either which way, any promotion can get it wrong. But if they get it right, the potential to get it right, and the stars they decided to choose to bring on board in AEW, that's important. Because to me, AEW needs to get a little more, we got to talk about a little more in the context of WWE right now, because the momentum is swinging much more than it ever was. The pendulum has swung in favor too many times this year for AEW to neglect it, to not talk about. It's happening too much to not talk about it. And people need to understand that as long as AEW keeps getting these small victories right here, being able to go ahead and take the attention away from WWE, they can do it. Let's diagnose exactly what's going wrong. Okay? The facts say everything. Number one, the viewership this week. You want to talk about last week being, July 4th weekend? Sure. But Friday Night SmackDown, which was on Friday on the 2nd, which was not, it was July 4th weekend, but not July 4th exactly. You want to put it as, people were on vacation, they were on the road, this and that. Okay. But on Fox, the show averaged 1.861 million viewers. And that was down 110,000 viewers. 1849 was down. The new lowest rated episode of SmackDown on Fox. Now, last year, they also reached only 1.7 million viewers on July 3rd, 2020. But regardless, okay, this is not a good week for them. But their music dropped. That's not good. And then Raw on Monday night also takes a hit. Lowest viewership in show history Monday night. Now, we can talk all about what they're doing wrong over there. This week, if I had to say anything, it was basically, let's just go as diverse as possible. And let's also just kind of just diagnose, let's just put, ethnicity with ethnicity. I mean, to see Mansoor and Mustafa Ali together, or seeing New Day versus MVP and Bobby Lashley. Just certain things that were going on here that just kind of just bothered me. But Raw this week, 1.472 million viewers. I'm just saying, AEW, if Raw continues to keep pulling ratings like that, AEW Dynamite on Wednesday night is starting to become an attainable goal for them to outshine the viewership of Monday Night Raw. There's a chance of taking down the flagship show, which is not the flagship show anymore. The real anchor show is SmackDown. But to have Raw lose those ratings so much that it could easily take that. Now, with Raw, yes, NBA Finals did start. Oh, no, there was no NBA Finals. It had a Stanley Cup Finals game. But no, the NBA Finals had not started yet. And then and Dynamite did not have a NBA Finals game. That was on Tuesday. So you have that going to work for you. But the ratings went down. And the previous low was December 14th of last year, 1.526. But to go down to 1.4. Now, the ratings will go back up with live crowds. So 2 more weeks. 2 more weeks, they're going to get back to the ratings get a little bit better. We already know there's going to be a boost for ratings for both shows coming up. So there you're going to have that. Which I'm sure that's why there's not going to be any real feel of panic, because people are really getting fatigued with the Thunderdome shows. Yeah, okay. Not to mention the shows we're getting coming up are taped. Well, not the SmackDown, but the other Thunderdome show we're going to get, Raw has already been taped or going to be taped coming up. So there's that. But that's just not good. And with what they did, it's not helping either. There is no, listen, they got Money in the Bank coming up besides the gimmick match itself. There is nothing else right now that is really garnering any kind of real interest. there isn't anybody except for Roman Reigns and that storyline. We can talk about the mediocrity of everybody else and try to boost him up as something more. We can talk about the dancing partners that I like to call for all the stars that are coming out. When you have to go and look at NXT, we have to go back to Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole over and over. But here's the thing. But this is in WWE or NXT. We don't recognize Ring of Honor. We don't recognize Impact Wrestling. We don't recognize any of that. Oh, okay. So you're just going to neglect the history that's told. The stories are probably retelling. And the matches they're doing at a much older age. Not as if these guys are not in their prime, but we've seen these matches many times before. We've seen these guys wrestle with each other, tag with each other, wrestle with each other, all of it. Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly, over and over again. Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn, over and over again. Seth Rollins versus Cesaro, over and over again. And they're working with each other because who else are they going to work with? Because this company, with WWE, they have nothing for them to do. So they say, well, okay, work with each other. You guys work it out. Is if the creative team doesn't give them anything, nothing to work off of, we're just going to say, hey, you know what, guys, just do your thing. We know you can work a good match. Just make it happen. Just do it. That's what they do. You could almost say to a point Cameron Grimes and LA Knight because they work with each other as Trevor Lee and Eli Drake. You could go there too. But regardless, we go to the same thing over and over again. Edge recreating, instead of Jey Uso, it's Jimmy Uso. And now Jimmy Uso will probably make it not on TV. So they're not going to be able to go and pay off that right there. So Jimmy Uso getting locked in to a submission hold where those two guys are going to have to face each other, or they're going to deal with each other down the line. So Edge and Roman Reigns eventually doing another match. The match they should have had without adding Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania. Now we're going to get that match. Reverse booking. But then the catalyst in between the roadblock to Roman Reigns because of his own personal bad choices has hurt the main event storyline. These kind of mistakes. Now, this is on Jimmy Uso, not on the company so much. But the company must react. I said this on TikTok. They have to suspend him, and they have to put him into rehab. He has to be forced into rehab, if not done already. How many more times do you let Jimmy Uso continue to drive behind the wheel intoxicated, regardless of how he's going to complain or explain it himself? It's 4 times. Get him in if he wasn't already in rehab, you put him back in the rehab. And get him in there. But this mistake hurts the company at the most inoptimal time. Baron Corbin could have been one of the best heels in the company, and he's been ruined. The King gimmick should have never stayed on him for this long. They have hurt him ever since he was the general manager. They failed him. Baron Corbin should be a bigger star right now. Why they have had him just muddle in mediocrity, I don't know. The guy can talk, the guy can wrestle. He's on SmackDown for a reason. There is no reason why this guy should be so beneath. It doesn't make sense. I look at the names that they had on SmackDown this week. Okay, Big E, at this point, you know, just kind of including him in matches with Apollo Crews is just kind of beneath. Apollo Crews is an IC champion. That is really, the title just feels like window dressing. And that's because they have not put, because Apollo Crews holding onto that belt has not meant anything. I feel like that it has just, that title is significant for Apollo Crews, but that whole gimmick has not worked. It doesn't rub me the right way because he has nobody really well to go up against. The Baron Corbin Shinsuke Nakamura thing, I hated it. It's kind of nice that Shinsuke still gets to do something. He's doing something, significant. Now doing the King thing with Rick Boogs. Okay, got it. Kind of haha, kind of whatever. So he's being utilized. Now, Bayley and Bianca Belair. Bayley is great. And she's one of the true highlights of the women's division, regardless. And for Bianca Belair, and I don't like saying this, but Bianca Belair, listen, I think she's great. She's awesome in the ring. She's got an amazing look. Everything you need. I don't like her promos. There's just not enough intensity to them. The kind of like the cocky, kind of sassy kind of feel. When she's getting provoked, please get pissed off. Come on, Bayley is giving you shit. Please go after. Get angry. Get mad. Do not try to act like you don't have a chip on your shoulder. She should still have a chip on her shoulder. Most important in the storyline right now, Bianca Belair should absolutely still feel like, as champion, which is what Bayley's doing right now, kind of putting the pressure on. The live crowds are coming up. Yes, Bayley needs to keep hammering it. The heat needs to come on even thicker that she's an inferior champion. It was a fluke. All that kind of stuff. It's an easy storyline to tell. But then Bianca Belair needs to go ahead and come back and feel the inferiority and kind of go alpha on Bayley. Come out strong. Don't come out cocky. It doesn't fit. It kind of feels a heel more than a face. It's a mixed signal with her. And Bianca Belair, she needs to be the baby face and really just get pissed off here and try to prove a point to Bayley. And not this kind of ha. I hate the laughing bullshit. It's horrible. And what's going to happen is that Bianca Belair at this point in time needs to stand out bigger. She just cannot be with this title reign and feel like, okay, it's just been flat. Something's got to come from this, because eventually Sasha Banks will come back, challenge Belair, and if things look right, Sasha gets the belt back. That rematch will happen. They're holding off for it, but Sasha Banks will come back and will probably win that belt back. And Bianca Belair needs to come out of this title reign better. She is better. Hell, wrap around the damn Street Profits that, with him, her husband Montez Ford, and then Angela Dawkins. She's got more talent than both of them. I'm not denying. I am absolutely solid on that. You can argue all you want, but that's how I feel about it. She has more talent, more ability, more box office bankability than the Street Profits could have combined. Bianca Belair wears the pants in that family. I want her to succeed, and this company is failing her regardless. Now, the I Quit stipulation, that could work out really well. And in that match, Bianca Belair needs to go above and beyond and truly take care of. And the Hell in a Cell match did not do it for me. The I Quit match here, let's get it done. Let's truly make this, give that ending strong. And let's squash this feud with Bayley and be done with it. Because Bayley, we can get her to do anything else. Because she's awesome. She is great. Whatever you got to do. In the draft, you move her over to Raw and help that division out. Because she is a great hand right now that needs to be helping somebody else. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, last man standing match, qualifier for Money in the Bank. A little bit of hot shot buggy for a match like this, because a couple of years ago it would have meant a lot more. But they have watered this storyline to the ground, over and over and over. Look, I like them. I like them wrestling all as much as everything else. Put them into the tag team, please. Let them go to tag team titles. Like, really, enough of this. Let's get them back to tag partners. Or I know they can't do it, but like something here. Come on. I just don't get it. I mean, honestly, you got the heat with these two guys. Why don't they get partnered with somebody else that creates more of an animosity between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn? Don't let them have to be the people that have to go in the ring all the time. Let them be the talkers on behalf of some other wrestlers and get them into the fray. Now, everyone wants to go and talk about Zelina Vega and shit on that. Listen, I went ahead and talked about that when she was talking to Gabriel Carteras, or Gabriel Carteras from the SAG-AFTRA decided to reach out and make a little bit of a vine for Zelina Vega to come out for a possible unionization. But Jesse Ventura tried it. It didn't work. Other wrestlers tried unionization. That didn't work. That's not going to happen. For everybody to go ahead and crap on Zelina Vega for taking the job back, nobody's going to get unionization happening for wrestling. I don't believe that's going to happen in our lifetimes. It's not. And for people to go ahead and go after her and all that, you know what? I think they're doing just fine. Listen, Zelina Vega, she goes back. She gets to work. Who knows what kind of a deal she got to get back in, but she's going to play ball. And supposedly, officials apologized to her. And now we know her husband is now working in AEW. So all's well in the world for both of them. And I'm glad they're both doing okay. And I'm glad to see Zelina Vega back. Now, either which way, Zelina Vega already got added as a spot in the Money in the Bank. And Liv Morgan comes in. But it looks like we're going to get that coming up anyway. Street Profits and Alpha Academy, throwaway. And I mean, it doesn't make a difference if Otis has changed his look. The gimmick didn't need necessarily some changes, but they decided to go with it. We're not that far away removed from of Money in the Bank last year, where Otis won the damn briefcase. Had Mandy Rose, got the girl, got the briefcase, living high. And then all of a sudden, where have we gotten to him now? Completely changed the look. Darkened his hair, shaved his beard, all of that. And now Otis is becoming something else. I'm still not into this yet. And Street Profits, man, they need a tough side to them. Something. I don't know. But then again, I don't like how some of these groups are paired. Hit Row over at NXT. I'm not into that yet either. You know, I guess I need some more time to get it gelled. I'm still a fan of Shane Swerve Scott, period. But I don't care for the entourage. I just don't. And that's not that they're not talented. I don't know. But they're not too much in the ring. Top Dollar works pretty well. I haven't seen the female in the entourage yet go in the ring. It'd be nice to go see what she can do. But regardless, I don't know. Trying to do the urbanizing of certain gimmicks here, it doesn't work for me. With Street Profits, it just feels like it worked at NXT, but they haven't evolved these two characters at all. And they're going to only be known for the red solo cups. And I don't know if that's going to get much over. They were starting to get a little bit of a headway, but you know, this is another act that's supposed to really work well with crowds. Maybe that's going to work out when they get the crowds back. But to kind of see the solo cups going out on a regular basis and then nobody else getting the cups, like it just, you know, they've been hurt by Thunderdome. But also, I need them. Okay, you want the smoke? Then please get a little more. Let's add a little more intensity, huh? Really live your gimmick. I mean, I don't expect them to go gangsta over here or something like that, but something more. Let's get a little bit deep down from the diaphragm and really deliver here. And as for Edge, you know, they make him a big deal, sure. But for him to have to go and take a top spot right now, because eventually he might just have to go and have that Roman Reigns match with Roman Reigns at SummerSlam, because Edge is filling a role because the company has failed to find anybody worthwhile to be a prominent babyface opponent for Roman Reigns, a younger star on the roster. Among who they have right now, Big E should be there, but he's not. Cesaro, you could have possibly done something, but they don't want to. Personally, I'd like to see Seth Rollins turn. Well, this was an idea I actually thought about myself. That I'd love to see Seth Rollins turn back face and recreate the Shield with new members. Seth Rollins was already the architect. Let's go back to that. Let's turn Seth Rollins face, Shield 2.0. And that becomes the counteract to Roman Reigns in the table and the bloodline. I think that would absolutely kind of fill some void. And then you give two more people the shot to be just what Jon Moxley or Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns were. Spot to be in this top faction. But then you recreate the faction. I think that would be a great idea. They own the property. They have the trademark. They got the music. They could easily go back to that. Put Seth Rollins back in the Kevlar? Yeah. Back in the vests? What a great idea. And then you figure out who are the two guys that you think would fit that role. Because we know that SmackDown needs to be built up first because that's the biggest spotlight. And then you get the Raw and you figure that out from there. But that right there to me makes a difference. That would be a promising idea for them. And you can tell me if I'm wrong. You can disagree with me. I don't have a problem with that. When I look at the Raw side, let's go and examine on that side again. AJ Styles and almost eventually will get himself over. He's significant. Morrison and Ricochet working with each other. It's just, let's just keep doing the same dancing partners work with each other. Ricochet and Johnny Mundo and Prince Puma, folks. Lucha Underground revisited. That's where we are. Slamtown versus Prince Puma. We're back to that again. What am I saying? Huh? Yeah, let's get the same dancing partners together. Let's get them to work with each other. Doudrop, I'm done with it already. Eva Marie's nice looking on camera, but we don't need her in wrestling. And just the idea of how they put together Nia, Shayna, Eva, and Doudrop against Nikki Cross, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Naomi. What a hodgepodge that was. The women mean nothing. And Alexa Bliss, with all the magic, just continues to hurt this division altogether. The nucleus of the women's division's right there. And look where we are. Horrible. Mansoor working with his sparring partner, Mustafa Ali, and putting that together. Okay. And now we're going to get back to Jinder Mahal and Drew McIntyre. Because they were 3MB members. You can't make this stuff up. Can we say future booking Punjabi prison match between Jinder Mahal and Drew McIntyre? Yes. Oh my God. Think about that. This is where we are. Jinder Mahal isn't, and I like Jinder Mahal. And I don't mind the two heavies he's got now with him. But it's like, okay, let's go back to these guys. They have nothing for these guys to do. So basically, Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal, they work with each other as a team together. So now, that's there was no real heat in this. Very little heat. And just going on, okay. And then Corey Graves brings up the 3MB reference. Oh, that's wonderful. And then you look at what was basically a main event match with Lucha House Party and Mesa T-Bar. Because, like I said, this was ethnic representation night on Raw. Let's get the Hispanic teams out there. Let's get the black teams out there. Let's get the women together. Let's just sort our diversity, equity, inclusion. What? Now, one of the true spotlights, one of the true shining lights on Raw, Riddle. I'm going to admit it. Riddle is winning me over. That guy's got it. Maybe they're figuring something out with him. Something's working with him right now. They signed him to a new deal. They got something right now with. I mean, Riddle has good matches. The goofiness, the RK Bro thing has worked. They had paid her with that. Something's connecting right there. And then with AJ Styles works. And again, AJ Styles, you can't have a bad match with that guy. Wonderful. So Riddle, I feel good about. That's one of the few guys right now that I feel like it's actually on the way up. That's a bright light right now in Raw. Then you got Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. And that, wow, that is a train wreck right there. That feud is a pure train wreck. You know, trying to outwit each other. I hate this storyline immensely. It's horrible. And I don't know why they keep going with it, but what are you going to do? This is where they are. Jackson Ryker Elias, I don't care about this either. And the 24/7 champ. Why is that title still in anything? Please dump that belt. Nick Khan, let's get that thing off of here, okay? Let R-Truth retire with the belt. Enough. What a waste of a belt. Unless you do it for house shows only. And they're not doing house shows right now. So. But that's where we are. I haven't done one of those, like, go through the shows a little bit and kind of the ongoing state of the company right now, what they're doing. Just horrible. And so that's where we are with things. It's just, it sucks, man. I hate it. I want this company to do better. But they just don't. But what will help kind of ease some of the fans out there, like myself, is the end of the Thunderdome. I took this from WrestlingInc.com and Mark Middleton. So the final Raw was recorded and the Thunderdome. The last Raw's done. That's it. Yuengling Center in Tampa, Florida, according to John Pollock at postwrestling.com. And the final Thunderdome will be the go-home show to Money in the Bank. And then we know that, and then if I'm correct, we'll have the SmackDown. That'll be not this Friday, but next Friday, which will be live. And then we'll get Money in the Bank from American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas. And that will be with live fans. And for next week's Raw, we already know that Almost will make his in-ring singles debut against Eric of the Viking Raiders, while AJ Styles will take on Ivar, because those two guys, the tag team champs, will take on the Viking Raiders the following week. Sheamus defends his U.S. title against Humberto Carrillo. Oh, we're really glad to see that again. And John Morris versus Ricochet in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Doesn't sound like much. And that's the go-home bill for Money in the Bank next week. But we will get fans back in 10 days. That's nice to know. Speaking of SmackDown, this is one of the stories that got overshadowed by a lot of the things this week. You know, when you talk about some positive press, this I think is pretty significant. That SmackDown, an episode of SmackDown will be split. We'll have a split site broadcast from the Rolling Loud Festival. So the July 23rd edition of SmackDown on Fox will feature matches from Rolling Loud Miami's 2021 festival. And WWE already announced that the July 23rd SmackDown will be from the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse in Cleveland, Ohio. And now the episode will feature, which was formerly Quicken Loans Arena, but now they'll feature split-side broadcasts, multiple matches, the remainder of the show held in Cleveland. It's the first ever collaboration between the company and a major music festival. NXT did that as part of the UK's Download Festival for a few years until COVID-19. Rolling Loud's going to be headlined by Travis Scott, Post Malone, and A$AP Rocky, and superstars will share the same stage as us rappers. This right here is absolutely a Nick Khan thing right here. By the way, one of the new hires by Nick Khan, Scott Zanghalini, Senior Vice President, Revenue Strategy and Development, in a press release, said, "We couldn't think of a better partner to deliver such a unique experience to fans during the July 23rd edition of Friday Night SmackDown on Fox. Yep. Rolling that. That's important. That's significant. And they did it. So I give them credit for that. So that's a big deal right there. And we'll see what that crowd does with that and how it's going to come out. And by the way, Rolling Loud is actually a regular festival that happens 3 times a year. They'll be back in New York coming up later this year, October 28th to 30th. And they'll be in California, December 10th to 12th. So there could be future festivals that WWE could be involved with down the line. So I thought that was a significant thing for them right there. But anyway, let's go back full circle to my original point. And with that, I want to go ahead and go back and talk about Hulk Hogan and what made him concerned before he turned heel. By the way, if you want to know the whole story of this, please go find the Guy Evans book on Nitro. What a great story. Hogan spoke with Justin Barrasso, Sports Illustrated, to mark the 25-year milestone. Hogan's turn, according to Barrasso, remains among the most titanic moments in the history of the industry, and the formation of the NWO still serves as his most powerful development. Hogan turned heel, shredding the trademark red and gold for a new look of black and white, joining forces with Nash and Hall, who are a rare combination of legitimate tough guys who were as dangerous as they were entertaining. The moment was the start of something larger that had industry-altering ramifications. Paul White says the NWO changed the business. They made it possible for heels to be cool. NWO t-shirts, you can still see them sold. The Too Sweet hand gesture is a fixture amongst both talent and fans, including the Club Elite. Paul White mentioned that as WCW champion the night of Bash at the Beach, it was significant for him, but it was a footnote to the main event. He said, quote, "The reaction of the crowd that night of the pay-per-view told us something different was happening. The anti-hero became the hero, and that was a direct parallel to what was happening in society. And so much of that night was unpredictable." Throughout history, wrestling's top stars have had to evolve to remain at the top of the industry. Chris Jericho has unveiled countless subtleties and nuances to his character. John Cena, Roman Reigns, Sasha Banks are also the same. Hogan in the red and yellow always seemed slightly at a pace in WCW, but he became an icon, even crossing over into the mainstream sports and entertainment and matches that included Dennis Rodman, Karl Malone, and Jay Leno in this new black and white incarnation. And it added the NWO, represented a chance to add a new layer to the careers of Hogan, Hall, and Nash. Bischoff said during this time that wrestling had taken a downturn in the 90s. Vince McMahon had his issues with the steroid trials and the distractions with that. Everything was declining. In terms of live attendance, no one was drawing big numbers in the United States. I was visiting Japan and seeing packed crowds at the Tokyo Dome. I studied the difference between what was being presented in America against what was in Japan. The biggest difference was that it was treated so real in Japan. I'm talking about the talent, the fans, and even the media. And as for Hogan, he says, "I knew I could work as a heel because I'd watched so much of Ray Stevens and Pat Patterson and superstar Billy Graham and the great Malenko. They'd chop, kick, and beat the crap out of you. Then they'd backpedal, cross their heart, drop to the knees the moment the babyface would make his comeback. For me, the problem was the timing. I didn't know if it was the right timing to do it. And by the way, Hogan is the subject of an upcoming Netflix biopic directed by Todd Phillips and starring Chris Hemsworth as Hogan, Bischoff serving as executive producer. A project that is yet another reminder of the enduring impact of the NWO. Continues to live. And Barrasso also makes the point here that wrestling, particularly in WWE, really takes chances on this magnitude. Jon Moxley's arrival in AEW was a genuine surprise, but it's hard to replicate the shock inspired by the NWO on July 7th, 1996. One reason the moment worked out was that it was not overproduced. And Bischoff said that I didn't want it to feel like we were shooting on a movie set. I wanted that lack of pre-production feel. We wanted the viewer to feel like it was out of control. It felt frenetic, almost spontaneous. Wrestling companies today work hard to gain mainstream pop culture attention, but that happened organically with the birth of the NWO. This wasn't the sort of nostalgia act that often on display in the modern era. Rather, it was an example of taking legitimate risk where the unknown outweighs any guarantee. And that kind of attitude needs to happen today. That's what you got to keep in mind right now. With everything that's happened with this company, there needs to be risk-taking. There needs to be an opening up of creativity unlike any other time. It will not come from WWE. What AEW is doing right now is trend-setting. Something's going to stick. I believe it wholeheartedly. And then when that happens is when we will go ahead and find out where WWE stands. They're going to be confronted by live crowds. AEW's momentum must force the hand of WWE to do better. There is no reason where they should be where they are right now. And the continued decline that has gone on after overcoming the obstacle that was this moment 25 years ago. They did it. They get all the credit for it. They're going to have to do it again because they sat by for a long time and didn't do anything about it. And here's where we are today. So this weekend, we got Ring of Honor's Best of the World. I don't know if I'm going to do a post show about it. I'll probably just go ahead and catch it myself, and then I'll go ahead and reach out back to it after that. Danhausen and PCO versus the Bouncers. Demonic Flamita versus Ray Orris. I'm not going to give predictions. Jay Lethal versus Brody King. Josh Woods versus Silas Young. EC3 versus Flip Gordon. Ring of Honor World TV title, Tony Deppen versus Dragon Lee. Ring of Honor World title, Rush versus Bandito. Jonathan Gresham defends the Ring of Honor Pure Championship versus Mike Bennett. Shane Taylor Promotions, Khan, Moses and Shane Taylor will take on Dak Draper, Dalton Castle, and Eli Isom, for the Ring of Honor World 6-man tag team titles. Foundations, Rhett Titus and Tracy Williams versus Violence Unlimited, Chris Dickinson and Homicide, Violence Unlimited, in a fight without honor for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships. Foundation's the champs. And the Briscoes versus Brian Johnson and PJ Black. And that's supposed to be a pre-match that'll happen in the first hour of the show. Come back next week. We'll start talking about Money in the Bank and lead up to that. And Slammiversary coming up next week. We got to bring up that as well. That's coming up on next week's Wrestling is Real podcast because wrestling needs us. Thank you for listening to the Wrestling is Real podcast. You can find all previous episodes at wrestlingisreal.com or subscribe to the show on all major podcast outlets, including Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Follow the King of Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at King of Podcasts, and search King of Podcasts on YouTube, or type youtube.com/JBRASCO951. This has been a presentation of the King of Podcasts Radio Network.